Hey, I think we're live. At least I hope we are. Please say you can see me, someone, that I'm out there and I'm broadcasting live. Um, so this is the first time that we're using this particular software. And so there's going to be some hiccups. So I just want to let you know that ahead of time. And but we hope we'll just get through it together. If someone can just put in chat, make sure they can see me and things are broadcasting and things are groovy, that would be awesome. And let me know if that is indeed the case. Hey, Jennifer sees me, and I'm assuming you can hear me. Okay, there you go. And here. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, great. So welcome to the very first kind of podcast for Cyber Social Hub. And we hope to do these quite often as we go through, especially right now in the whole Corona world. And we've kind of deemed these Coronanars almost in some of the things that we do. As you can tell, I have my full Corona look going on. I did get, I managed to get a haircut other than that. But today I have a guest and I want to bring them up. And we're working on this. All right. So no judgment on this first one as we go through this thing. It's David from Latent Wireless. And he's here, and we're just really going to have a conversation about his technology and about who he is. So I'm going to try to bring him up right now. So there is David's mic, and here comes David, hopefully. And there's, I don't know which side he's on for everybody else, but he's on this side to me. Am I still on that side to you, or that side? Or that side? Yeah, all right.
Your thumb. I'm on thumb side.
According to David. So
yeah.
So how are you, man? And thank you, number one, first for agreeing to come on and be my guinea pig in this experiment.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Not having to do a formal presentation or anything. Just the casualness of this is great to do.
Yeah, and we want it to be a lot of fun too, and people can obviously watch this and chat. So a couple of things I want to cover prior to getting started. I should look like I'm talking to you over here. I don't know. Anyway, it's like the Brady Bunch, right? Yeah. Is you guys can ask questions as we go through this. So down in here somewhere or wherever I'm at on the screen, you should see ask a question in there. You can actually click that at any time, ask a question. You can also, if somebody else has asked a question that maybe you want answered, you can upvote it then as well. So what that means is it just comes to the top of the list of questions the more upvotes something gets. And then what happens if you miss our answer by chance, if you have to step away, because this is obviously interfering with everyone's day-to-day lives. If you have to step away and you need to come back and go, oh, I missed the answer. That's okay. As soon as the webinars or the crowdcast is over, you can watch the replay and go right into the questions, and there'll be a little button. It says, hey, hear the answer. And it goes right into the video where the question was answered. So you don't have to miss it. So that's kind of one of the cool things about it. So that's right down there somewhere as well. And obviously you guys have full chat. I'm going to try to keep my eye on it because I can see it here on the side of my screen as things are rolling through. So yeah, not bad. It literally, I promoted this thing just a couple hours and we got 7 people. I'm happy. It's better than when I tested last night, David, which I was in here by myself, kind of just hanging out and talking for a little while. It reminded me of my radio days, actually. So I sat in a little box all the time and just talked to myself all day. So I'm no stranger to that. I can do it, and it's okay. So how are you, David? And where are you? Let everybody know, where are you at in the world?
I am in Iowa City, Iowa, and doing wonderfully.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. The weather finally, hopefully, getting a little nicer out there.
Oh yeah, we're in the 70s now. Weather is absolutely beautiful because just a couple of weeks ago we had 4 inches of snow. So this is fantastic weather.
Yeah.
Although I had to go out and mow grass today, so that's the exciting part of my day today.
It's in the 40s here in Cleveland. Cleveland, Ohio, and yeah, it's in the 40s today. Exciting. Yay, Ohio. So tell everyone a little bit. I guess I should give some lead up. You're the founder of a company called Latent Wireless. So tell everybody exactly what it is that your company does.
So we developed a product for law enforcement that allows them to leverage Wi-Fi as evidence in investigations, whether it's trying to find devices or mapping networks to help assist in gathering intelligence from mobile forensics. Just kind of, there's so much information about Wi-Fi that can be used to help find leads, find suspects, find missing persons. We wanted an easy-to-use tool that was scalable and would allow agencies to work together to help solve crimes. It was just a tool that I kind of always thought I wanted when I was working. It was never available, and so decided to dive into the private sector. I was in public sector for 16 years as a police officer before founding the company. I didn't leave police work, still a police officer to this day, but nights and weekends founded the company and kind of got some partners and did some development and built this product out because it was something I wanted.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wish when I was still doing active cases in law enforcement, I wish I'd have known about the technology that you have made available to agencies now. And we want to just touch on kind of the high level and not get down in the weeds too much about it. And again, I want to keep this true to kind of the nature of it. And I don't have a whiskey bottle here in front of me or anything, but we won't go that far. Just kind of keep it casual and I know your technology has done some pretty awesome things because you've told me some great stories already. So I'm going to try not to let any of those out ahead of time. But essentially, now correct me anytime I'm wrong here. I'm still learning about your technology as well, is that you have the ability to kind of map where networks are at. And I've heard it referred in a couple of articles. And I don't know how big of a fan you are about this, but war driving essentially for law enforcement. Is that sum it up pretty well?
I mean, that really just because most everybody in the space knows what war driving is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what one part of our product does, is the war driving for law enforcement. I think that's fair.
That's awesome. Yeah. And in all full disclosure, you've sent me a copy of it to kind of tinker with, and I'm going to be taking a look at it for Cyber Social Hub side of things. I play with it a little bit, and thank you for walking me through some of it. It's just this used to be more blonde than what it is, and well, it just affects how I think apparently. But so mapping the networks is just a small part of it as well, because you have a whole nother side, which is locating the device itself, right? A Wi-Fi enabled device. Kind of walk us through how both of those kind of function at a high level.
Sure. The original purpose of the product, what I wanted was a tool to be able to find Wi-Fi devices like laptops, cell phones that are communicating on Wi-Fi only, just anything Wi-Fi. I work in Iowa City, Iowa. So relatively, it's a small town, in real world of things, because I think we're a population of 70-some thousand. And property crimes and home burglaries are a big deal to us, but we also have even more major crimes that where Wi-Fi can kind of help to get leads in the case. So what we did was we developed a product that could be easily deployed. And so it's a Windows application that can be installed in the computers and squad cars,
Mm-hmm.
a USB Wi-Fi device that just plugs into a USB port in the car, and essentially crowdsources the detection of Wi-Fi devices. And so as the officer starts their day, they start their car, they turn on their computer, our application just fires up in the background. And as they drive around on their routine daily patrols, going call to call, it's just listening to all the Wi-Fi in the area and looking for any signals from known stolen or wanted devices. So it could be a TV stolen in a burglary. It could be a laptop being used by a missing child. It could be a cell phone that's on Wi-Fi only, being used by a fugitive who's sought for some reason or another. So just a way to find those Wi-Fi devices. And that was the original intent of it. The whole mapping of networks, that just came out about a year ago when we had an agency working a homicide case. They were using another party's kind of free geolocation database to locate networks and found it wasn't reliable. And they reached out to us and said, hey, we're doing these forensics. We get the information back on the Wi-Fi networks that the device connected to, but we don't have a reliable source of information to tell us where that network is located. And so we want something that's reliable, that we can track when it was last there, how long it had been there, and such. So we just added that capability into our existing application.
Nice. And so with that, say up here near Cleveland, if Cleveland PD was using it and Iowa City was using it, and say something was stolen from your jurisdiction up here and it was brought to wherever here in Cleveland they come. But I'm joking. People love Cleveland. I get so haty when I say that stuff. But would it alert back in Iowa City if the device was detected here?
Yes. Yeah, everybody is looking for everybody's stuff, essentially. And that's one of the reasons we only sell to law enforcement, because there's active case investigations that gets downloaded. Now, it gets downloaded to the local machine, so that squad car, it's stored in an encrypted database on that squad car. But when that computer fires up in Cleveland, it would download any database updates, which would include that device that may have just been entered by Iowa City. And as they drive around, they're looking for that. And on today's technology, it can be a large number of devices a computer is looking for, and it takes such little computing power to do these comparisons that you don't have to worry about a performance issue on the squad cars. So we've been very careful to build and test our application to make sure it doesn't have any negative impact, because really we're running on mission critical computers. We can't have crashes on squad car computers, no blue screen of death in the squad cars, because that would be the end of us pretty quick. So we work really hard.
That wouldn't mind that too much. Like, I can't respond to calls. It broke. What do I do here?
Valid point.
No, that's pretty great. So essentially, you're crowdsourcing within law enforcement the information to share within interagencies or other agencies, right?
Right.
Cool. So now, I don't want to get, like I said, down too far in the weeds in it, but I want to really kind of learn about some of the case uses of it. And you had mentioned that you could use it to find TVs. And I know there's a story involving a gaming system that you have. I don't know why I'm so hung up on this story, but I want to hear the story again. I'm asking about it all the time, in full disclosure to everybody else watching right now.
And this is, one of the things you'd said you wish you'd had this when you were an officer. And one of the kind of the struggles we have is just letting people know that this is available, because we didn't build a better Wi-Fi detection product for law enforcement. It's kind of the first and only one that's out there. So just making people aware that that's something that can be done. And so we've been really lucky to have some agencies who, some have been around since we were kind of beta testing. But the one you're talking about in particular is a residential burglary occurred while some people were on vacation. When they returned home, they discovered the burglary, contacted the local law enforcement agency who came out. And that agency was a customer of ours. So they had an idea how Wi-Fi could be used. And some of the devices stolen from that house were Wi-Fi enabled. So the detective worked with the victim. They logged into the home access point and looked at the client list and were able to pull off the MAC addresses for the missing devices. So as they were going through that client list, they could identify, oh, well, this is the Samsung TV, or this is the gaming system, or this is the Amazon Kindle, whatever the devices were, find out what was missing, and then they took those MAC addresses and put them into our system. And as they were going through, there was one Apple device they couldn't identify. The resident said, "Yeah, we don't have an Apple device, not sure what that is," but the detective marked it down. And so they put those MAC addresses into our system, and little time later, a neighboring agency had an officer on routine patrol driving through a residential neighborhood and got an alert that there was a gaming system in use nearby that had been reported stolen by the reporting agency. Admittedly, that officer didn't know what to do with that notice, so he just kind of closed it. But we built the system for that scenario. So when that detection happens, it notifies our cloud service that a device was detected and we auto-generate an email and send it off to the entering agency. So the detective who had entered those devices gets an email and says, hey, this other agency just detected this gaming system that you entered, and shows on Google Maps where that detection occurred. And so the detective gathered up his laptop and the directional antenna that goes with our product, and he went out to the scene and actually called me, and he said, hey, so I've never used this to detect a device before. They were just using it for the network detection to assist in their forensics and intelligence. So I kind of explained to him how a directional antenna works, because he had never used a directional antenna before. And maybe a 2-3 minute conversation, and off he goes. And I got a text a little while later saying, hey, it worked great. We discovered the house where that was using, recovered the gaming system, got a lead in the case. And so they did traditional investigative techniques from that point, identified a suspect for this crime, and went out to kind of do some intelligence gathering near the suspect's residence. And as they got close to the suspect's residence, our system went off again, but this time it was that unknown Apple device that had been on the victim's router. And so here, apparently, during the commission of the crime, the suspect either attempted to or actually did connect to the Wi-Fi at the victim's residence, which captured that MAC address, and further connected that suspect back to the crime. So, we love to hear these stories, because in so many cases around the country, that evidence is just sitting on an access point, not being collected, just simply because people don't know that that's a source of evidence that's available. But without that, likely this case would still just be sitting in that unsolved category, and no closure for the victim, no recovered property.
Exactly. And kind of just enforces that sometimes, we don't always catch the smart ones. But it reminds me of the days of, when cell phones were first starting to come out, and we were first starting processing cell phones. A lot of the officers and investigators really didn't know the data that was available or what can be gotten from it. That they can just make calls or whatever. They don't stop to think about all the technology that can aid them in their investigation. Even back then, and now it's pretty commonplace. Everybody gets it, and it really hasn't been that many years. Well, maybe I'm just getting old, but it really hasn't been that many years. Well, there is gray in here now, so it could be that many years. But and I see where you're at with the technology is kind of those really early pioneering days, and getting people to realize that, hey, there's valuable information in this to help and aid you in your investigations.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of one of the funny stories to me, and a learning thing for me is, as a police officer, I never had to deal with marketing, right? We don't try to market ourselves, or, we don't have to go out and drum up business really, per se. And so when I first founded the company, the name was pronounced Latent to me, but it was spelled L, the number 8, NT. And it was an acronym for Latent 802.11 Network Traffic, because that's essentially what we're doing. It's latent evidence that's sitting on these access points somewhere, right? It's kind of not easily identifiable, but just pronunciation and confusion with people had to, after a couple little while and couple of conversations of confusion, people saying, hey, how do you pronounce that, or what does that mean? We ended up changing it to the name. But it's just another type of latent evidence, just like fingerprints or DNA. It's very uniquely identifiable and very effective.
That's awesome. And again, I don't want to kind of limit it, because we really kind of focus sometimes on the stolen devices, the stolen pieces of property, and really not driving down, because I try to want to avoid this being a software demo. But you had an instance or another story, I think, involving an actual person, right?
Right. We had an agency who took a report of a missing child, and a young girl who had met someone online who she thought was better than her parents and respected her more than her parents. This other person was an adult, still is an adult, and so ran away to be with him. And the parents reported the child missing. The agency is a customer of ours, and they learned that the girl took her laptop with her. So once again, with assistance from the parents, they logged into the access point at home, got the MAC address for her laptop off of the access point, put it into our system, and the next day, an officer again was on patrol, driving down the street, and gets an alert that there's a laptop in use nearby that was reported in a missing persons case. And he sees the pins that we place on a map to help them narrow down the location just by driving through the area. And as he drives down the street, he sees different pins placed, is trying to learn because it's the first time he's dealt with a hit like this. And so he starts circling the block, watching the map, seeing what the mapping does and how the things change. And as he drives past the house where the girl is now staying with this gentleman she met online, the girl sees the police car driving by, slowing down out front. She gets scared and calls her mom, thinking she's in trouble. So it was one of those. It was like it was a find with an asterisk, because they didn't track it back, run in and rescue her out of there per se. But without that alert being in our system and without the utilization of that, the officer would have just driven by the house and not changed his behavior. It was that change in behavior of trying to identify where that device was located that caught her attention and got her to call mom and resulted in a successful return home for that child.
That's phenomenal. That's awesome. And that's
those are good ones.
Just kind of the officer presence kind of convinced her otherwise, but it wouldn't have happened really. Well, I mean, you can't say for sure, but I mean, for the most part, you were headed that direction. That's why the officer was in that area in the first place.
It likely wouldn't have occurred likely wouldn't have returned home that quickly. And it's that time saved is a good chance there was some abuse saved as well. And so we're happy about that one.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I do want to talk a little bit about, I want to kind of shift just a smidge back to the technology. Because I had most of your items here in front of me, my desk, and I have since, because I finished the studio for this in another room, and it's all in there. Of course, I was going to do a broadcast, and I forgot to move it in here. So, but you just have a couple small pieces of hardware, right?
Right.
That the whole thing runs on. And when you sent it to me, I literally had it up and running in a few minutes. I got around the Mac issue because I am using a Mac and it's designed for Windows, but it ran and it runs great in a VM. Just fired the VM up. Actually had to get a GPS signal and not be in the basement somewhere. And then it worked just fine.
Yeah, that was one of the big things is, it's got to be easy to install, easy to configure, easy to run. I'm comfortable as a police officer saying we have the copological factor. You got to make it easy. You got to make it effective. And, that's one of the reasons we developed it to start automatically, run in the background. Don't show in the taskbar because officers are switching between more important applications that they use constantly through their shift. So we don't display there. Took a number of steps, and we put a lot of work into the installation and configuration to make that as easy as possible.
Yeah, had to make it essentially, even though it's for cops, still had to make it cop proof. My bar was, I was in a drug unit for a number of years. If they would not break it and it worked fine for them, that was kind of the gold standard, right?
Right.
It's like, hey, it'll work for everybody. If those guys don't break it and they can get it to work, you're on par. That's phenomenal. So let's now take the last little bit, because I don't want these to last too terribly long. Again, you guys, I know I've been putting in chat a little bit. If you have any questions for David, the technology, or whatever, you can really, it's casual. These things are just designed to be that way. We don't want them real formal. Ask a question. It's right down in your should be in your lower bar. Again, this is the first time we really use this particular software out there. And ask a question, and we'll get to it and definitely answer it as we go forward. So I know some of the probably the questions, and I'll just ask this one because I know it's coming. Is cost on it?
Right.
Most people are in this mindset that it's like, oh gosh, oh, there's a question right there. If you could kind of slide it over, and I'm into the ask a question box. I see it in chat, and I know I'm just being weird because I kind of want to see how it looks and ask a question. In all honesty, that's the only reason. I have no other reason.
We want to experience a question
right.
through the ask a question.
Except I'm a big kid right now. That sums it up for the most part. Is cost on this, and and I when I think of it, I think of like obviously I work for large digital forensic companies, and as an examiner myself too, that I knew the cost of those tools and how much they were, and I had to be very selective. It's like, oh, I got so many tools I can use in my toolbox for my investigations. Be it a standard aid to a tool we can use department wide or whatever. So what would be the cost of the devices and the services?
Yeah, cost is annual license per computer that's running it. And worst case scenario is the software license is $200 per computer per year. And then the USB dongles, it's a one-time hardware purchase of $40 for that Wi-Fi dongle. And my goal there really, being from law enforcement and having to try and justify purchases to administrators before, is that I wanted to keep the cost so low that it wasn't a barrier for the implementation for the agency. We've got a new product. There are some unique legal issues. We have a whole document that we put out for city attorneys and county attorneys to walk them through legal issues and relevant case law on that. So there's enough barriers in some agencies to handle for the kind of our advocate in the agency anyway. So we wanted to keep the cost low for that reason. And another reason is if an agency has, say, 20 squad cars, I don't want it to be so expensive that they only put it in 2. Because Wi-Fi has that limited range, so we want it in as many cars as possible. So we tried to price it that an agency would look at it and say, we have 20 squad cars, but the cost is so low, let's put it in all 20 cars, not let's just put it in 2, otherwise it gets too expensive. Because really it's just like crowdsourcing among agencies. We want to crowdsource in that singular department too and get it out into every car we possibly can.
That's probably the most, when I first heard the price, I was most surprised by that because, I'm paying more for this software right here.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? Anyway, no, that's phenomenal. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are concerned about that. And okay, I think I see some questions down here. I'm now excited. Oh, we found it. Great. That's in here. So Megan has one here. I'm going to click this start answering. I'll read it to you here in case you can't pop those up. I don't know if you can or not. It says, what's the strangest device type you've been able to locate?
Easy IV pumps. Because IV pumps, apparently, I didn't know this before I dealt with this, Wi-Fi enabled so that they can send patient data to and from like a nurse's station or something.
Yeah.
So that they can monitor at a nursing station remotely. Apparently, there are a lot of thefts of IV pumps for the purpose of drug abuse. Because if you know how to use an IV pump and you have intravenous drugs to abuse, you can get a slow, steady drip instead of a single large dosage. And so it kind of extends out your investment. So that's probably the strangest one at this point.
I want to comment on that, but I'm afraid I'll get myself in trouble, so I won't.
I didn't realize how big of a problem stolen IV pumps and that really are.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was an issue, honestly. I mean,
right.
Anyway, what do you just wheel it out of the hospital? How do you even? I don't know.
In this particular circumstance, I believe it was an employee of the healthcare organization who took it and was using it. So maybe through some back door and not out the front door, I guess. I don't know the details.
Yeah. Okay. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one before I make a comment. I'll teach people how to steal IV pumps. Okay, JT, thank you for getting that over there because I'm just curious on how this thing works. It says, does it capture Bluetooth also? Oh, hang on. Okay, now you can answer.
Okay, now I can answer. No. So Bluetooth is an interesting one because we've had a number of requests for Bluetooth. So it's a different chipset, would require modifications or some design changes to our product. But we've also kind of run into some engineering issues with supporting monitor mode using the Bluetooth chipsets in a way that is stable enough that we'd be comfortable running it on a mission critical computer. Because when you look at our Wi-Fi device, we don't use the manufacturer's driver. So the chipset driver that we use is 100% custom built by us. So that Windows driver that installs with our product, 100% developed in-house by us for the stability of it. Because it's just, a lot of people, when they think, anyone who does Wi-Fi in Windows, when they think of monitor mode and packet capture in Windows, they think of the Air PCAP adapters that are about $700.
Right.
And so it's very expensive to implement those. And we couldn't really tell agencies they had to put $700 devices in all their cars because that would really hurt sales. But so Bluetooth, we just haven't found a way that we're comfortable we can have the stability that we need and yet also with the newer chipsets be backwards compatible. So for that reason, those kind of reasons, we haven't moved forward with that. Another reason is just the limited range of the older Bluetooth, which is getting a lot better these days, that we haven't implemented those yet. Kind of the third thing is Bluetooth. A Bluetooth device is inherently much more mobile than most Wi-Fi devices even. And so kind of once you get an alert on one of those devices, trying to find that, which is, generally on a person in a lot of cases, whether it be a watch or other device. So there's some other aspects of it that we just haven't tackled the engineering of yet, but that we do get that request fairly frequently.
So you've been looking at it, is what you're really saying.
Is that my long answer of saying we've definitely given it some serious thought because if law enforcement comes to us and says this is something we'd like to have to solve a case, we certainly want to fulfill that need if we can. We just need to make sure we can do it in a way that isn't going to compromise the computers, and that we can be comfortable that we're satisfied the technology is accurate enough that we can lead them to the device once they get an alert on it.
Sure. And man, this has been a long time when I was tinkering with this stuff, but were there some protocol changes in Bluetooth to help security and to help some of that from preventing that from happening? I think from 3 to 4 or 4.1. And if someone knows, let me know, because I'm really shooting at the hip here because I'm not sure myself.
Yeah, and then there were some hardware chipset changes as well. I'm not totally up on those either. My partner, who handles the driver development, can explain it in great detail to the point where I just gloss over and think about what I have to get at the grocery store later. We're looking at it, but unfortunately, we're not there right now.
Okay, good. All right, I got another one here. Approximately how many agencies are currently utilizing, if you choose to reveal or give a roundabout? Because I know we got some client discretionary things going on.
Yeah, there are. So approximately that, I guess, that are in use. I think when I ran this, I'm thinking back through my mind, when I ran to see how many agencies had active clients, and this was within the last 7 days, 113, I think, is where it was for active clients.
Nice.
Not client computers, but client agencies that had it active. Yeah.
Sure. And obviously, the more agencies that are using this thing, kind of the larger the arm of finding different. Obviously, if something from Iowa to Cleveland is going to be different, but like Iowa and all the subs of around your area, that is beneficial to the larger metropolis at hand, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I think is one of the unique things is every time we sign up a new customer agency, every agency before them gets a little bit better value, right? Certainly, it's a greater value if that agency is closer to one of our frequently previous customers, because it's more likely they're going to get an alert, depending on proximity.
Mhm.
But yeah, and those agencies are pretty well scattered out. Our first few agencies were right here in Iowa in the Midwest, because it was, my personal network that I reached out to introduce them to the technology, and it kind of got adopted here in the Midwest, certainly quicker than other places. And that's one of the things we do, is just try and go out to conferences, make connections, get referrals from other agencies, and kind of spread the word organically, because that officer to officer discussion of, hey, we've got this product and it works great, and this is how we used it, that's the best sales pitch we can get. I can't duplicate that through any marketing materials. And so we
Right.
really look to those and appreciate those.
Right. Absolutely. So I know you have some slides also. Were there any slides particularly that you wanted to show that would kind of reinforce what we've talked about a little bit? And again, this is completely off the cuff, so I hate to put you on the spot.
Yeah, way to put me on the spot. I had them
Sorry.
available in case there was one relevant to a question. I don't want to bore people with, PowerPoint slides are kind of one of the worst things I think you can do. But sometimes they're necessary for showing how things work in that. So yeah, if there was anything you've seen that you want me to pull up, otherwise I just don't know which ones would be relevant to this audience.
Now I know, obviously, we David and I have been talking a lot, and I know this isn't part of necessarily the software, but you're looking at it. That one, do you have that one image? And again, I'm throwing this right at the cuff. You could just say, Kevin, why did you ask me this question?
Let's try it.
Of the image of kind of that the animation as to an officer as they go through and drive through and kind of mapping the networks. And I know that your vacation with your wife up in Park City, when you went and talked at a conference up there, you actually took her ward driving. It still made me laugh. And
what a great way to see the area, right?
Yeah,
we saw some amazing houses.
Yeah, whole breaking and entering and trespassing. Obviously,
we ended up accidentally trespassing on the Olympic Village ski park, got locked in, but they were really nice about it. So the networks up there around the ski lift at the Olympic Village part there are all mapped now. Let's see. I'm going to try your new thing here, and let's see if we can do the screen share.
All right, great. I'm going to put up a call to action while you're doing that here real quick. I'm going to jump away for just 1 second. I'm probably still here, but you just can't see me. Let me take a look here. All right, I'm going to make that focus here so people can actually see it. It looks like it's in presenter mode, David.
Oh, did I grab I grabbed the wrong window again, didn't I?
We're learning about this. Yeah.
That's right.
Apparently when you go to share, because this is all web browser based. Hey, you disappeared. Hey, David's gone. It's just me. Is it just me? Did he kill himself? Hold on, let's see if he's still in the audience. He's still in the audience. He killed himself. I'm going to invite him back to the screen. All right, invite David. Yes. Invited David a few seconds ago. All right, that's what I'm seeing on my screen. I'm narrating back.
And
hey, welcome back. Now you're on the other side of me.
This is why I do
over here.
And I don't do this type of thing, right? All right, we'll try this. We'll try this again.
Hey, no judgment. I was talking to myself for 30 minutes yesterday in this room. So
tell me, does that still look like presenter view?
Yes.
That's still, see, I clicked on the different one this time. So I don't want to.
What I'm going to do, you guys will probably notice here, I'm going to show again, this is something I'm trying out here. I'm going to show this. There should be a button somewhere down in here or over in here, depending on where you're at, down the bottom of your screen. And that's to David's website. And what a good looking website it is, by the way.
That is nice. So tell me, does this look correct to you now?
Yes, it does. I'm going to give it focus here and make
it focus.
Midgets down here. Whoop. All right, awesome.
So this is a residential area for the most part. It'll change to a flat map, and this is just kind of a sped up version showing a single vehicle driving around. And as the vehicle drives around, you'll see the blue dots come on the screen. I wasn't driving this quickly, but it was That's I want to say almost 1,100 networks there just by driving the streets. So that's kind of what it does, is in the background, it's just kind of constantly building and refining that database. So each time a vehicle drives past a Wi-Fi network and hears beacons from that network, it'll look to the database and say, is this network in my database? If yes, then is the signal stronger this time? Because if the signal is stronger, we're going to move that pin to this new spot, because that's likely a little bit closer to the source of the network. And that just happens constantly as those vehicles are on patrol.
Nice. I'm going to ask a question myself, because in the replay, if people want to know the answer to this, so I'm going to ask it in here, or maybe I can have Megan or somebody ask this question as we go through here. I'm gonna give it a shot, because I'm going to want to put her on the spot too. What are the legal issues with war driving? How does that sound? I'm going to ask it myself. Okay.
All right.
So you know where I'm going with that. And I know officers have gotten themselves into trouble with this. How is your product any different from this whole capturing data and everything like that?
So are we looking at war driving for networks or locating devices?
Let's go both.
Let's go both.
You
okay.
Opened it.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, we have a whole document just for city attorneys, county attorneys. And I'll preface this by saying, of all the agencies that have implemented our product and presented that document, or really all agencies who have presented that document to their legal counsel, we've never had a legal counsel deny use of our product in a jurisdiction. So they've all authorized and signed off on that. And so when it comes to the Wi-Fi networks, we're actually collecting much less information than Google and Apple and Microsoft are through their products. So when you think of whether it be like the Google Street View or through the Android operating systems, through iOS, constantly collecting that for geolocation information, we collect much less than that. And we store that information in a database for a particular agency, but all agencies share that data. So really, it's just what's the MAC address of the network, what's the SSID or the network name, the location of the strongest signal, when was that network first heard, when was it most recently heard, information like that. So it's the same information that if you go stand on a corner and start up your laptop or you start up your phone, it's the same information that your device uses to show those networks around there, because that's what these beacon packets that we use are intended to do. They're intended to announce the presence of a network and what its capabilities are, that it's here, you're able to connect to it with the right authorization, and hear the specifics about it. So we don't ever connect to any networks. Our device, our hardware device is passive only. So one of the things our driver does is disable the transmit radio. So our device cannot transmit anything. It can't be used as a Wi-Fi device to connect to networks or anything. It's just not possible. So it's listen only for that.
Nice. Now I know with this view, I'm going to kind of shrink it down here just for a second. So
Sure.
I can have a question. I'll bring it back here. Now with this, now in mobile forensics especially, right? These are mapped a lot of times by the mobile device, right? And they're stored in the device itself. And I know that's huge right now with a lot of the mobile device forensic companies. So how can you help better with that? Is there a way that happens?
Yeah, we are definitely always working to get officers whatever data they need wherever they need it. So one of the things we provide out is, for example, there's a lot of Cellebrite physical analyzer users out there. Cellebrite has their BSSID enrichment service that is free to customers. And when we were initially approached about providing this network location information, it's because an agency had utilized that feature, but there were some concerns about the location information they'd received, whether it was information that didn't match other pieces of information they had, or the networks weren't located. And so we built this to collect the information they needed, and then we developed a Python script that'll run within Physical Analyzer. So they can open it up, an extract in Physical Analyzer, run our Python script. It will hit the data that's in our servers and pull it right into Physical Analyzer so they can map it and view it and see what's in there. And especially today, you know, a lot of bad guys know that cellular networks can be used to track people and locate devices. So there's a lot of people doing that, Wi-Fi only calling, Wi-Fi only messaging, which is great for a number of reasons, because if we know the MAC address and we want to find the device, they're communicating on Wi-Fi and we can find the device. But when that device gets dumped using a forensics product, we can help connect that location information right into the forensic product itself.
What other compatibilities do you have? I know there's some other compatible ones, if you don't mind mentioning them.
No. Oxygen Forensics Detective. So there's a native integration in there where you can just go right in, put in an API key that we give our customers, and then they can pull the data right into there. And then we now have a first version of an artifact for Magnet's Axiom, and that'll allow people to pull this data right into there.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, we're really glad with the response from the community, and the customers want this type of data. As I said, Celebrate has their feature, which has some benefits. It's a worldwide database. Problem being that we don't know the source of the data, so it's good information if you don't have anything else to go on. But what we do is we give that the data that was collected by law enforcement themselves. So there's more reliability and actionability behind the data that they pull in from our product than what they use from kind of that free resource.
Sure. Other things like, I think you had mentioned, what was it, Wiggle earlier or something like that?
Right.
Or who knows?
Yeah, you don't know who collected it. You don't know how it was collected. Was it really collected or just fictitiously generated? There's a number of questions about the data on there, and that they have data that's up to 20 years old in there now. That's been around so long. So we kind of want more current information and be able to articulate and show it.
I tend to update my Wi-Fi a little bit more than 20 years. It doesn't send smoke signals anymore, at least. So we're good there. I got another question, Megan. For us non-law enforcement types, what's war driving essentially? I'll let you grab that.
Oh, yeah. War driving around. Originally, it was driving around to identify the location of Wi-Fi networks and whether they were open or secured or not, because it would give you a giant database of where you could go to jump on free Wi-Fi if you needed to. So war driving is just driving around to identify Wi-Fi network locations.
Something nerds did, whether or not that I necessarily did it, but in the early days. Yeah. So the next stage of this, and I'm gonna bring your slide back up, is you had a pretty cool little animation of, obviously this one's to map the networks, but when you find a device and you had a story that goes along with that. So I'll let you switch over to that, and I'll bring up the focus there because we're getting short on time. I don't want to respect the hour. Gosh, it's gone by fast. It's much fun.
Yeah,
it's fun when it's a conversation here anyway.
Let's see. Excuse me as I scroll through. Sure.
Go ahead. If anyone has a question, you're welcome to put it in chat. If you can't find the ask a question button down there, because I'm thinking it should be somewhere along this bottom bar and over, depending on where I'm at on your screen. I have no idea.
Yeah, so this is an animation showing an actual device detection.
Right. Pop it up there. There we go.
Oh, sure. And so this is what the officer would experience in the car. When a device is detected, our application will just...
I'm just seeing a Windows screen.
Yeah, I'm looking to see... Oh, there it goes. Is it changing now?
Oh, there you go.
Yep. So it would just pop up on the screen. We're going to determine what Wi-Fi channel should we connect to, or not connect to, but listen on. And then as the squad car drives down the street, our application just places pins wherever it hears signals from the device. It'll only do that, closest they're going to be is 10 meters, so you'll notice some even spacing there. And they're color-coded based on the signal strength. And so as you go, you'll see red pins, orange, yellow, green. and the green is a good strong signal. And then as you start to drive away from the device, that color will go off again. So what this is showing is just that by simply driving down the street, we were able to detect the device and really narrow it down to just a couple of houses, where then somebody could come back. Most agencies can have somebody come back a little more covertly, plain clothed, and use the directional antenna to determine exactly which house that device is hidden inside.
Sure, and that's awesome. I mean, as you were showing that here, and I don't know how clear the video is for everyone on the broadcast, but I could see it really clear. It clearly went red, or orange, yellow, and then green, right in there. So, and I know you have. And I don't want to give this away because I know this. I know the story.
Yeah, which story?
Don't you have some like views to kind of give you more intelligence and more information about this? What you can do?
Are we talking like street view kind of views?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so that's all right. So that's, you see, now you're getting me into, that's part of the normal demo that I do that I wasn't. Let's fire it off
I
here.
don't mean to,
No.
to call you out there, but
That's all right. So this is you see the sample email here. I'm not used to doing all this on the same screen. So this is an example of what the email looks like that a detective would get if a device just detected something. So they just click on the link, which it's going to open this in a new tab. So I'm going to have to.
Am I going to mess with your password and stuff, or people are going to be able to see it?
No, you're all right. So let's. But I'm going to have to change my. I've got to change and do.
Yeah, sure. Go
now this is one of those. So here's where we can use that fancy feature on your product here of sharing just a single Chrome tab, right?
Oh, there you go. Again, for those of you who joined late, because I see there's been people popping in and out here, is we're trying this platform out. So let us know your kind of experience with it too. It's a little different than most. It's not a typical webinar, right? If any of you want to actually come up on stage, this is the stage, and ask questions, you're welcome to do so as well. It's kind of just a group social thing. It's not just us talking to you. You're welcome to join in the conversation at any point.
All right. Can you see my Chrome tab there?
I can. Let me make that focus here. There you go.
So when they click on the link in the email and the notification, it just brings them to let them know kind of what was detected, what their case information was, what agency detected it. So if it's another agency, they know how to get a hold of that agency, et cetera. But down here, you'll see all the same pins that you just saw on the actual application, in-car application, and you can kind of hover over these pins to see the signal strength. And for the sake of time, we'll say this number 2 and 3 green pin there are the strongest. And because it's just a Google Maps integration, you can switch to satellite view and see the area back to map. But we can also go and just drop into street view. And so before we even go to the scene, we can look around and we can see those pins in 3 dimensions right in street view and hover over them. So again, for the sake of time, this pin and the one that would virtually be behind me are the strongest. So I can look and say, well, it's probably that one house right on that side, or since we're kind of right between 2 houses, it's probably one or the other of these 2 houses on this side. And so now again, by just driving down the street, we've narrowed it down to just 3 houses to go out and follow up on to try and find that device.
That's awesome. And then obviously you get more detailed once you get the directional antenna, and kind of looks like a ping pong paddle.
Yeah, and going back to that gaming system, I asked them afterwards, kind of that user feedback of, what'd you think? How did it work? How'd you feel about the signal strength graphing? And he said, yeah, it was great. Not only could I tell pretty easily which house it was located in, but I could figure out which part of the house, because on one side of the house, the signal was stronger than when I pointed it at the other side of the house. And so I knew it was on, this side and this corner of the house, just from the sidewalk out front. And so, yeah, those signals are out there. That evidence is out there. We just kind of want to build awareness of it so that people can use it to help solve some cases.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite parts right here. That's just amazing how you've used kind of things that were intended for other purposes and use them more for an investigation, where it'll really help the officers get information to, okay, we know this is kind of the neighborhood and stuff. I was on SWAT for a number of things. We used to go out and do this stuff manually. It was before we do the sneaky drive-by, trying to get a layout of the neighborhood. And now we'll go visit it on Google Maps and see what.
Right. Like. Yep.
That's great. That's pretty awesome. I dropped a link down, and obviously no one doesn't have to use that. I just wanted to see if it would work, and it does. It's the setup. So if you wanted to come up onto stage and ask David a question in person, which I don't expect anyone's going to be brave enough to do that, but we can actually invite you up on stage and ask David a question more about it, the software, if you have one, or you can stick to the traditional ask a question there in the buttons down below. And don't forget, I did put a button up to David's website. If you're curious there, you can click that. And if I typed it right, it should go to the website from there.
If it doesn't, Google.
yeah. You do come up with Google, so that's always good.
Yeah.
We got about 4 minutes or so. So hey, awesome, thanks, Kevin. What a great name. Is that is there any other questions anyone might have? And thanks, Kevin, for testing that button for me. Again, we're just kind of playing around with the software to make sure it works. And again, David was nice enough to be our guinea pig. And I think it went fairly well.
Yeah. This is other than me messing up a few, pulling up presenter view instead of the slides.
Essentially, you virtually fell off the stage. You know that, right?
Well, that wasn't a fall. That was a hiccup, and I think you said hiccups were okay today.
No, actually, I think it was more of a stage diving scenario because you did it intentionally. It was yeah. Anyway, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Anybody got any last minute questions? We'll hang out for a couple seconds here afterwards. No problem.
Yeah. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate that. So other questions, the big ones for us are usually, who else near us is using it? That's really one of the big ones we're getting. And as a small company, again, with a product that people aren't out looking for, they don't, we found people don't go to Google and search, Wi-Fi location software for law enforcement or anything. They just don't know it's out there, so they don't know to look for it. And so, we're always trying to find those people who are willing to be innovative and kind of leaders in their area to say, this could be beneficial to us. This could help us solve crimes. It's good for the victim. It's good for the department. It's bad for the bad guys. And those kind of all are pluses in my book. So it's trying to connect with those agencies that are willing to be innovative. We get a lot of the questions around the legal issues, and that's why we put together that pretty comprehensive document to walk people through. We'll hear a lot about, cell phone simulators aren't allowed in our area, or we have this restriction or that. And so it's just walking them through that cell phone simulators are very different from us. They're out there, they're transmitting and soliciting connections and kind of forcing devices to connect through them. We're passive, we're listen only. And so that makes us hugely different. Or another one we get a lot is thermal imagers. Well, how are you different than a thermal imager, which is out there looking for things? And thermal imagers, there's a very specific wording in the case law that a thermal imager could provide information about intimate aspects of the home that otherwise wouldn't be available. Our product doesn't do that. It either does nothing or tells you that the wanted or stolen device is in use nearby. And then, once you get to that stolen part, then there's the argument that, does someone utilizing a stolen device have any expectation of privacy in those communications? And the courts have found they don't. So at that point, tracking that device is not a legal problem. So it's just taking that step by step through, because people are rightfully concerned about the legal issues of it, because you want to make sure you don't get yourself, your agency in trouble, and that any evidence found is going to be admissible.
Yep. No, perfect. Well, wait, I see a little orange one down there, which means there's a question.
I'm going to look at it too this time, just because I haven't used that part yet.
For it. I don't know if you can. Do you have a little green where it says "Start answering" at all on you?
Nope. Just ask a question or suggest a topic.
I'll have to click it. How can you find a device's MAC address if it's already been stolen? I'm going to go ahead and click "Start answering." Okay.
So this Yeah, actually, this would be a very common question. We'll hear people don't even know their serial number of their device, and they know what a serial number is. Most
Right.
people don't even know what a MAC address is, and that's really one of the benefits is how Wi-Fi works. It's you can get that MAC address reactively. So in the case I mentioned on the gaming system, go to the victim's home and you can log into their access point and pull it off of there. We live in a community with a university. So even if a device is stolen off campus, someone can go to the university IT department and say, hey, I was logged in at ABC building yesterday at 2 p.m. for my class, but my device got stolen last night. What's my MAC address? And they can pull it out of there. Corporate IT departments can very often do the same. Asset inventories in the corporate world will a lot of times have that. We're even seeing places, manufacturers now, that put it in a sticker right on the box. So if you still have original packaging, that's another way. So yeah, there's a number of ways to get that MAC address, even after the device is gone. Where serial numbers, you're just kind of out of luck. And that was this is our attempt to build a tool that's more effective than serial numbers, because serial numbers aren't effective for recovering stolen property, right?
Right.
Because you got to get your hands on it in order to inspect it. So if somebody's using a stolen TV in a home and an officer drives by, they can't see the serial number no matter what they do. But that Wi-Fi is going beyond the walls and can be detected.
Sure.
And so that's one of the benefits.
Sure. And Megan asked that question so I could pull her up on stage, and I didn't see it till after. It was much smaller print. Sorry, Megan. I can still pull you up on stage. I'm going to pull you up on stage just to say hi here, just to show that we can do this. Maybe I'm going to, what does this button do? It's either going to ban you or kick you or bring you on stage. So I'm going to give that a shot here. All right. Invite to screen, invite undefined. I don't know what that means. It says, "Do you sure you want to invite undefined on screen?"
Oh,
I didn't know you were undefined. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to bring you undefined, which I'm guessing it just didn't walk through the setup on there. I clicked the stuff, so I don't know if it'll bring you up or not, Megan. It should. Maybe. Or not. Don't see stuff yet. Yeah, it was saying undefined, which is really strange.
well, I hope my part was more exciting than this.
we have another question here.
Okay.
If you want to go in there and kind of read that one, I can read it to you. So you don't have to mess with it. Have you found a victim's router/gateway will capture a suspect's device info while they're on scene during that crime? So it's kind of that back to the number one story that you had there. I'll let you go into
right. Yeah, and so we're really interested in this kind of more recent case to find out how the suspect's MAC address ended up on the access point at the victim's residence. Was it they simply clicked to try to connect, and that's what logged the MAC address and didn't have the password? Was the victim's access point open and they just connected to it because it didn't require a password? Not sure on that, but we've also seen different behavior depending on the manufacturer of the device. So a lot of the consumer grade ones, it seems only log that MAC if the person attempts to or connects to the device. If people have some of the more pseudo commercial level Wi-Fi access points in the home, we're seeing that they do actually list them. And it may just not necessarily be in like an authenticated clients one, but devices area where it's devices that it's heard or other networks that it hears, and it uses that information to automatically select the best channel for that Wi-Fi device. So it really depends on the manufacturer and kind of the artificial intelligence, for lack of a better term, that's built into that access point system.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me make
and you got Megan up.
Done answering. Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know when she was going to pop up. All of a sudden, boop, there she was. So there's Megan. Oh, I got you muted, Megan. Sorry, because I was getting some static from your end.
That's okay. Yeah, I got it. There was a delay.
Oh,
I probably didn't like it because I have our admin one up in a different window.
So. Oh yeah, she's helping me out in the background in case she's my safety.
I'm a lurker. Okay. Just in case your internet dies again, which it did happen actually on a webinar the other day.
Yeah,
It's all good.
my provider I think it's some board admin who's just sitting there. And it's like, let's shut Kevin off today. Boop. Let's see how long it takes him before he calls. Oh, now turning back on. I think that's what really happens there. So yeah.
Phone's ringing. Go ahead and turn it back on so he hangs up.
I think he's on a webinar. We see webinar traffic. Let's shut it off. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, we've gone over already. So hey, Megan, thank you for volunteering to pop up. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Great. So again, David, thank you very much for taking your time, and thank you guys who've kind of hung out with us and just kind of joined in the conversation. I appreciate it. Hope this kind of presentation style was cool. I think it's better than just a standard webinar myself.
Yeah, I definitely like this format better. I don't have to start and stop, so people can do what they want to do for editing and such. So this was a pleasure for me.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Good. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. The replay will be available if you missed any of this. As soon as I literally hit, I have a button down here that says end broadcast. It's the same exact link that you use, which I personally love. And you can go back and watch it, and you can read through the questions. And if there's any questions that you want to hear, you just click and it'll take you or you can just watch the entire thing again, and it'll be up and available to you. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, David, especially for being our guinea pig here as I go out of focus and still out of, there we go. And so thank you very much. I appreciate it for taking the time out of your day. And thanks everyone for showing up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for logging in and listening to us kind of talk through. It's humbling to know people found this interesting enough to stick around. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Again, thanks everyone. Take care. Hey, Kevin, you have a great weekend too. Megan, thank you. And I know JT Fullerton is in there somewhere, and there's a few other that are lurking in the background. So thanks, guys. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.